So Eddie's going to ask here, do you guys think this is the draft, Packers finally get another weapon for Rodgers? Nick, I'll let you go first. What do you think?
Yes, I do, and I don't think it'll be in the first round though. I think we're gonna get a wide receiver in the second round, and we might trade that first pick that we have down. We might trade down to the second round, like early in the second round, and get someone like the guy from North Carolina, Brown. But we
Yeah.
might also just pick late in the second round. But I do think the Packers will get a weapon for Rodgers this year, and I think they'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, I'm with you. And this was something, I guess I would define weapon as a receiver in the first 3 rounds. So I think they'll
Yeah.
do that. And I did want to point something out, Nick. They don't have any receivers signed in 2022. Not one is signed. Now, Josh Adams will most likely get extended. And
They've been talking about that last couple days, honestly. They've been saying, like, they're working with Adams. Yeah.
So they're not obviously going to roll in without a receiver. Like, that's crazy. I guess the bigger point is that they don't have anyone locked up in 2022. So maybe they're still feeling out the roster. Maybe they haven't made a decision on Lazard or Equanimeous St. Brown or
Devin Funchess.
Devin Funchess. None of these guys are locked to be on the roster past this year. So I really think they are going to draft at least one or two guys. Maybe it'll be like a few years ago when they took Jamon Moore, Equanimeous St. Brown, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the 4th and then 5th round. So we'll see, but I think they will take at least.
I think they're going to get one. I think they'll get a guy either like second or third round, maybe first round, and then later in the draft they'll get another guy who just kind of like to test them out, where you get one in like the 5th or 6th round who's just there.
I'm with you. So I really think that they will get a receiver, probably 2. That's my guess. What are your final guesses? How many receivers?
Yeah, I'd go 2. I'd go right at 2. And I wouldn't take under 2. I'd say 2. I would say more likely 3 than 1, but I'd say 2.
Awesome. This was also brought up. Julio is available. I'm sure he could help you. Yes, I think Julio would help us. I don't know what the Falcons would ask for him though. That's my thing. Like
I mean, obviously Julio is one of the best wide receivers, but I don't know if we can afford him. I don't know if we don't need him. We need him, but not for the price he'd be. Julio Jones will not be a Packer.
I would have to look into his contract more and like, if they do trade him, how much are they going to have to pay and how much are we going to have to pay salary cap wise? Because the NFL is not all guaranteed money. So when they get traded, it doesn't all just shift. The burden doesn't shift to the team he's getting traded to. So I'll look into this one, but Gabriel, next time, or sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but 49ers GT, come back and we will have a better answer for you if you're in the next stream. But good question. That was a good one. You also asked, are you guys thinking, aka the Packers, thinking about trading away Jordan Love? I'm gonna go first. I don't think they are. I personally don't think they're thinking about trading him. I think they're kind of just holding right now. If it's a buy, sell, hold game, they're just in the hold mode. But Nick, what are your thoughts?
I would be shocked if the Packers end up trading Jordan Love. I think he'll be a Packer this whole season. I don't think he'll play unless, he's not playing. Rodgers is not getting injured. Jordan Love's not playing this season. And I hope Rodgers will be here in our quarterback for more than just this year. So I could see us next season looking to trade Jordan Love. It'll also be interesting to see if we show him off a little bit this year, like late in the season, if we have a playoff spot or just like at the end of a game, if we're up by 20 or something. But I don't know if that would be the smartest for the Packers, because if he goes out there and he doesn't do well, his value will go down. Right now, I think he's valued pretty high, honestly, as a player. I think he has good value right now.
Yeah, he has decent value. I mean, probably like an early to mid-second rounder.
Mm-hmm.
If he's a first, you could maybe debate that. Tough to say.
Well, it also depends if we're moving up, then that changes, So like give him in our first round pick for how high could we go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tough to say, but I don't think he's gone. A couple more questions. How would you guys rank Jordan Love compared to the top 5 to 7 QBs in this year's class? So at least for me, I haven't seen them all. I mean, I have, but I don't have like, a definitive ranking. Like I have him at a 90 over 90 ranking. He's at 85. I don't have it like that, but from what I've read and gathered and seen, I think he would be below the top 5 quarterbacks of this class. So basically,
Okay.
like he would be above Kellen Mond, Trask, Davis Mills, all those other dudes, but he would not be. He'd be stuck between those guys, which is like the tier 2, and then the first rounders, which is like Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, Lance, and Mac Jones. So that is what I believe the consensus or perception is. Now, whether you have Jordan Love over, say, like Mac Jones, you're like, oh, I think Jordan Love's arm's better. His traits are more transferable. I think that's preference at that point. But for the most part, most people would have Jordan Love 6. And then further proof of that is he was looked at as an end of the first round, second round type of talent.
Mm-hmm.
All these quarterbacks are going to be gone before 16, most likely. So I think that's also kind of indicates that Love's not viewed as highly as those guys, but Love's going to be better than all of them. He's in behind Rodgers. I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to be the best.
So I would totally agree with Blake that those 5 guys are definitely gonna go before where Love was drafted, and that they are definitely ranked higher. But like I said, I don't like quarterbacks coming in and starting day one. They usually don't work out. And that's why Love honestly could have potential to one day be a better quarterback, because he's learning. He's sitting, he's watching how the game's being played. It's different than college, and he's getting that extra experience from the sideline before he's just being thrown out there. Like Trevor Lawrence already has his playbook. Like they're just rushing him out there. I mean, obviously he's going to start this year, and he's very good and he's better than Love, but I don't like them just rushing quarterbacks out there.
I think the point you're making is definitely true for like someone like Zach Wilson, where the Jets O-line besides Mekhi Becton's kind of a disaster.
Zach Wilson's overrated, but that's not why we're here.
I don't know about all that noise, but
we don't need to talk about that right now.
I'll say this: Jordan Love's going to be going into a better situation than Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. Maybe not the 49ers, but say Mac Jones goes to a team like I don't know, like the Lions. Say a quarterback goes to the Lions. Would you rather be on the Packers organization or the Lions?
For sure. The Packers have one of the top 3 offensive lines. They got Devontae Adams. They got Aaron Jones. They're going to get another weapon. Yeah, of course you'd rather be on the Packers. And it's easier for those quarterbacks to do like Patrick Mahomes went to a good Chiefs team, and he got to sit a year, and that's why he's so good. Obviously, he's a great quarterback, but
it helps.
It helps sitting here, and he's on a good team.
And having Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, it all helps. So I guess my point here, or the point we're trying to make, is Jordan Love may not be as good of a prospect, but with the aid of being able to sit and being on a better team, he could end up being better than some of these guys that are drafted way higher than him and are seen as better prospects. But good question, Ed. And then Ethan had a few questions that were really good. What did you guys think of the Kevin King signing? I'm personally not happy about it. So we have done a video on this, but we can talk about it here as well. But Nick, what are your thoughts on it?
So at first, right after the playoff game, I was not a Kevin King fan at all. I was like, oh my gosh, you threw away our season. This was our year. But after a while, nobody wanted Kevin King really, and we got him for a fair price. He's a cornerback number 2 right now. I think we're going to get a guy in the draft who could maybe take that spot, maybe be right behind him. But I'm not upset with the signing as I would have been as my emotions were right after the game. But now, no, I'm glad. I'm not glad. I'm satisfied that we re-signed Kevin King, and he's a solid player when he's good, when he's healthy. When he's healthy, he's a solid player.
I'm with you. So I was actually one of the few, I feel, that was like, I want Kevin King.
Yeah, you want him back.
I know he didn't do good at certain moments in the most critical of times, but the point I always come back to is what would happen if we didn't have him? Because the guys behind him aren't any better.
No.
I wouldn't say Josh Jackson's better than Kevin King. I wouldn't say our slot Shannon Sullivan's better, or any of the guys after. So you're putting yourself where you're losing depth, A. And then B, what if Jair gets hurt? We're going to be rolling with some later round picks, and I'd rather have Kevin King slide into that number one role than say a Josh
And
Jackson.
he's got the experience too, exactly, in the
He
NFL.
does have experience, and in the past few years, he's been more healthy. That was his big issue his first 2 years. He couldn't get on the field. But he has been a little more healthy. I think starting in 2019, he was able to play most of the season. So I like it. He was pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive. I understand why people may not be the biggest fans of it, but I am a big fan. I always have been a big fan of the Kevin King signing. But that's a good question. There was another question which we have not talked about very much.
We haven't, have we?
What do you think of the Aaron Jones contract? Nick, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
All right. So we made video actually like we don't think we're going to re-sign Aaron Jones. And like we're happy. He's a great running back. And I believe it's 4 years, 48 million is what it came out to. So he could have got more money somewhere else, I feel like. That's a fair price for Aaron Jones. It's a little more than I personally like to spend on running backs because I think running backs are not as important as a position. You just kind of need a solid guy back there. I would have preferred like a 2-year, 18 to 20 million deal for some free agent. But no, I'm not upset with the Aaron Jones re-signing because he's a good running back. He's a touchdown machine. If you get in the red zone, he'll get you in the end zone. And obviously I like that. He's a fun guy to have on the field. And so I'm not upset about it, but I guess I can describe myself as I was a little surprised. I was shocked that we re-signed him, but I'm glad to have him back.
Okay, so fair enough. Yeah, at first I was very surprised they brought him back. It seemed like, according to everything, he wasn't going to come back. He denied a contract in the middle of the year that would have made him top 5 highest paid. We didn't know the guarantees, which is really all that matters for these contracts. Yeah. And what's interesting about this is that the first 2 years, that's where all the guarantees is. So if you look it up, basically like it's a 2-year deal because they have an out after the second year where they'll only have, I believe it's $6 million in dead cap. So basically how it works is after the second year, they can cut him and not have too much dead cap, which is important. So at the end of the day, it really boils down to he's pretty reasonable contract the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he jumps significantly. So what's good about this is, if you remember the Zeke contract, it was like 5 years with a lot of guarantees. It's only 2 years because running back shelf lives are a lot lower than offensive lineman, quarterback, pretty much every.
Todd Gurley is a great example of someone who just kind of fell off the map.
Yeah, and it's because they get injured a lot. They get a lot of tread. So when you look at it that way and you say, okay, there's only a lot of guarantees for the first 2 years, I don't have an issue with it. I'm fine with it. I didn't think they would get him that reasonably priced, but they did. And I'm cool with it because he definitely, he hasn't taken a ton of hits. I think the death number for a running back is like over 300 carries. He has not gotten that. He was injured a few years. In the beginning, he was misused by McCarthy, I'd argue. And also, we've had good backups like Jamal Williams. He played a lot of meaningful snaps the last couple of years with Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon last year for a little bit got to cover him. So he hasn't had too much tread. I still think he'll be effective for the next 2 years of this contract. And then before it jumps in balloons to I think it's $19 million, he's supposed to get base salary. And
that's a lot of money for a
in his third year. They can cut him before that happens. So I like it from that sense. I think it's a genius contract. I really didn't think we'd sign him, but if you would have told me it would have been for that amount, I would have said, of course. That's fairly inexpensive for a running back of his caliber in the length of the contract. Because, I'm typically very against paying running backs. So good job, Goot and Packers front office. Next question, Ethan, just bombarding us with great questions. Much appreciated. Ethan Van DeHay says, what linebackers do you guys like in this year's draft for the Packers? Nick, what are your thoughts?
So first I'm going to say that a linebacker that a lot of people like that me and Blake actually don't like is Zaven Collins. And he's from Tulsa, and we just don't think he fits with the Packers too well. But a linebacker that I do like is Owosu Koromoa from Notre Dame. I
Yes.
think he's going to fit very well with the Packers. I don't think he's going to be there at 29 though. We'd probably have to trade up a little bit to mid like 17 to 23 ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right after mid. He won't be like super early, like the early teens. He'll be the late teens, early
Maybe.
20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a linebacker I really like. I think Blake likes him a lot too.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I think Barnes is probably our best linebacker now. Really good against the run. Doesn't offer much in coverage. Martin is not the best in coverage, but Owosu Koromoa excels in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
He converted safety to linebacker. He's one of those smaller tweener guys. He's still 220 pounds, so he's not super small, but really good at covering the slot. And the Packers haven't had a good coverage linebacker. I mean, as far as I can remember, like maybe the last really good linebacker the Packers have had was Desmond Bishop.
For coverage.
I would just overall. I would not.
Blake Martinez, he's a good linebacker.
He was not to the level of Desmond Bishop. I mean,
you're right, obviously, but
Desmond Bishop was insane on those Packers defenses. Martinez was good at getting tackles, I guess.
Tackle machine, because no one else on the Packers can tackle.
Exactly. But yeah, Owosu Koromoa would fit really well into our defense. Next to our linebackers that are Barnes, who's really good against the run. So he would be an awesome fit. Is he going to be there? That's another question. That
not at 29.
Probably not. But Owosu Koromoa, there's a few other guys. Jamin Davis. I haven't really watched a lot of them play, but I know he's a guy that gets mocked there a lot. Nick Bolton as well from Missouri. So those are a couple names to look out for that maybe they'll look into. But good question, Ethan. And then we had one more. What underrated wide receiver prospects do you think the Packers might target in the later rounds? Do you have anyone, Nick?
I'm not too familiar with people we could get in the later rounds. I think there's that guy from Western Michigan who's very underrated. Mm-hmm. I don't quite know his name, but if we're gonna go past like the top three, like Jamar Chase and Waddle and Smith, then someone who the Packers – I'm sorry, this doesn't completely answer your question, but someone the Packers could get at 29 or in the early second round would be the North Carolina guy, Dwayne Brown, or John Brown, or the Elijah Moore. Is he Ole Miss? I think. So Elijah Moore is someone that a lot of people think the Packers would get if they go wide receiver out in the first round. Like, do you have people for the later rounds?
I don't have a ton of later round guys, if I'm going to be honest, so I apologize. I can't fully answer this question, but underrated prospect. There's one. I'm going to go for guys that might be there in the second round. Maybe we'd have to trade up, but these are completely different guys. But one is Kadarius Toney. Now, if you've seen our channel, you'll know Vish is the biggest Kadarius Toney fan. He's his favorite player. He would be insane in the slot. He's more of he's a really good route runner, actually, but he's kind of the gadget type where you can do the touch passes, you can do jet sweep, you can do creative stuff with him in the backfield, and he would kind of do what Tyler Ervin does, but he'd be that on steroids. He's very shifty, breaks a ton of tackles, insane after the catch. He can change direction, cut on a dime. Injury history is concerning. Not the most productive in college. What if you put stock into that or not? And he is a little smaller, so he's kind of limited to the slot role and gadget role. But he would be so explosive, and kind of what the Packers are missing is a guy who can create something out of nothing. So I really like him, and that'll be I'm not going to name the other guys because I don't think they'll be there. I think Kadarius Toney will potentially be there in the second round if we potentially trade up. So I'm going to say Kadarius Toney would be an awesome target in the second round. I know it's not later rounds. I wish I had some names for you, but Kadarius Toney would be awesome in the Packers offense. And then the second part of the question, is Bobby Tonyan going to get a legit running mate at tight end? This is a good question. Now, this is kind of under the radar news for the Packers, but they've actually invested quite a lot into tight ends.
They have. We got Josiah Deguara in the third round last year. Mm-hmm. He only played in 2 games. I think he only caught 1 ball.
Mhm.
He wasn't targeted, obviously, too much, but he got injured. And Josiah DeGuara only got in third round last year, and he could be. He's not going to be as good as Robert Tonyan, but he could
He's
be
a
a guy who's coming in on some plays and could carry his weight. So look out for Josiah DeGuara this year.
And then the other guy is Jace Sternberger, who they drafted in the third round a few years back. He has really not been as advertised.
He can't catch.
He was a really good receiver at Texas A&M. He was like a slot guy, and he was averaging like 17 yards a catch. But yeah, he's had some issues with dropping passes, and he's just really not the best. So he's kind of the fourth tight end. Mercedes Lewis is our other guy, really good blocker. So I don't think legit running mate is kind of
No,
I'd say like
it's not going to be anyone on his level.
Yeah, I would
This
say
man
like
had double-digit touchdowns last year.
I don't think they'll have a legit running mate, but I think they'll have good complementary pieces that that excel at maybe what Bob Tunyon doesn't excel at, and that's blocking. Mercedes Lewis and Josiah DeGuara, really, really good blockers. And DeGuara is more of a fullback, but he can kind of do both. And then also last year we had a guy by the name of Dominique Daphne.
He's a fullback.
Yeah, he was a fullback / tight end. He came in, he was a pretty good blocker, but interesting guy.
I think he scored, right? Did he score a touchdown?
I believe he did. I know
Mercedes
Mercedes had a few really good catches for touchdowns, so he will probably not have a running mate, but our tight end room is pretty good compared to how it's been when we tried Jimmy Graham, Martellus Bennett, Jared Cook for besides like 3 games. So yeah, Bobby Tunyon, pretty good tight end. Next question from Jonathan Turner. Do you think the Packers are shopping Rodgers? We'll just start with this one. No, he's not going to.
They're not. He was the most valuable player in the entire NFL. He is going to be a Green Bay Packer. And for the second part of the question, the Niners had their chance in the 2005 draft. They could have got him. They took Alex Smith, still a great player, but nowhere near Aaron Rodgers. So the Niners had their chance for Aaron Rodgers. He will never be a 49er.
Never say never, but not this year is what I'll say.
Or next year.
What would it take for the Niners to get him? See, this is the question that I think is kind of interesting because
what would it take for anyone to get him? Let's say,
yeah. I mean, you think about it. Okay, he's like 38. His arms looks fine. He looks mobile. He's playing at an MVP level. But when you do trade for him, it's not like with Deshaun Watson where the guy's 25 and can play 10 more years. Rodgers can play 5 years at most, but we haven't seen any quarterback play over 40 and be well besides Tom. But Rodgers looks like he can do that. So I don't know what his worth would or what his trade value would be. His contract's also kind of a lot, and the Packers have to eat a ton of dead cap. So it just doesn't make sense from that regard. But fun to think about. I mean, I have no clue what he would go for. At least I would say probably not more than 3 firsts.
I think it would be. I was thinking because I think McCaffrey, the Texans offered 3 firsts. Obviously, that's different because he's a running back and he's younger. But if you look at a running back who's younger, that's kind of similar to an older quarterback because neither running backs don't last too long, and a quarterback's a much more valuable position. So I'd say 3 firsts is roughly what he'd go for.
But yeah, it's impossible to say because the Packers would get a ton of dead cap. We're just grasping at straws here. He's not going to the Niners. Get that thought out of your head, erase it. Ethan, we are happy to answer your questions. Keep asking good ones. What's your thoughts on that Minnesota wide receiver? So I believe the Minnesota
Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, is Rashad Bateman. He would be really pretty good fit for the Packers, deep threat, 4-4 guy. He did struggle this past year, but 2019 looked to be really, really good. What are your thoughts on him, Nick?
So I go to Purdue. Blake goes to Iowa. So we're Big Ten guys. I saw a lot of Rashad Bateman in his career in college, and I love him. I think he's really, really good wide receiver. I think he could be a really, really good wide receiver in the NFL. He's not one of those top guys, but he's someone who will go a little later, and he's very versatile. That's something he has. He is a very versatile wide receiver, and I think he can succeed in the NFL if he goes to the right team and he has a good quarterback. I don't think he can. I don't think anybody will ever know his name if he goes to a team that does not have someone who is a top half quarterback, let's say.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, he's pretty explosive and like after the catch, obviously, like he's a deep ball threat. So that'd be interesting. Change of directions, maybe not the best. And yeah, this past year he didn't really dominate as much as people thought he would. I think he'll definitely be there late first. I don't think he'd be there when we go to the second. So maybe trade back and take him. His stock's kind of fallen, to be honest with you, it seems. You know, he was highly regarded as the fourth best receiver in this class, but I feel like he's fallen a little bit. Tough to say. Good question. And then another one, Ethan, another good question. Do we still have Devin Funchess as receiver? That's the first question. Yes, we do. So how it worked was basically he opted out from COVID, so his contract details got pushed back to this year. Still cheap. If we do, how do you think he will do? Any thoughts, Nick?
I think he's going to be, as of right now on our roster, I think he's our wide receiver too. I think he's better than Allen Lazard. Obviously, he's not Devontae Adams. I think he's a guy that Rodgers will learn to have confidence in. I think Rodgers will learn that, hey, I can throw this guy the ball and he's going to catch it. I think he's going to be pretty good. He had only one or two really good seasons with the Panthers, but he didn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. And Aaron Rodgers can make just about any NFL wide receiver look like a really good wide receiver as long as they are capable of catching the ball. They need to create a little space, but Rodgers will put it right there in his hands. So I think that Funchess will be good with the Packers this year. And I'm glad you brought him up because not a lot of people are talking about Devin Funchess.
Yeah, I know they're really not. So 2019, he got signed to the Colts for a 1 year, $14 million deal. He played in like a game or two and got injured. So people haven't really talked about him too much, which is tough. Tough to see. I guess my thing is I don't really know what type of commodity he'll be. He hasn't really done much since 2016, 2017. So I'm worried in that sense, like how he'll look. I think he'll probably be our third receiver at best. I'd probably have Lazard in front of him, but he's a big-bodied guy, and he played with Cam, and his catch radius is huge. So, if it is on target, his target's huge, basically, is the bottom line. So I'm not too confident in him, but if he shows anything, like, it's a win at the end of the day. He's cheap. But